So, welcome people of the World Wide Web. It is the weekend, so it is always movie review time, as you know, on this channel. I don't know, I think I've had 1 week, unfortunately, where I hurt my leg, where I wasn't able to go cinema. But yeah, this week I was managed to go. My wife, I went out late on a Wednesday, which is kind of when I used to go around football time. But there wasn't too much out, so I chose on the film Cat Person, which obviously when you see the title of this you'll know which it is. So a bit of a random film. I only heard about this for a trailer for a film I watched a few weeks ago. I think it was around the time of The Creator. Might have been slightly after that. It might have even been Five Nights at Freddy when I watched that. I saw the trailer to this, and this is where, and it's intriguing. So the main, I forget all the actors and actresses' names, so apologies there. It's mainly over two people, but I'll put pictures up of them so you can see who they are and what. But basically the premise is you have the female lead. She is from Lock and Key, I believe. She was the sister. She is a 20-year-old student in America, and she works at a concession stand, or where you get popcorn at cinema. And this bloke comes in a few times. He's kind of older than him. You don't really know too many details, and they kind of have some weird interactions. This then leads to the male asking for the lady's number. She does so, and then they kind of a relationship kind of screws in it, but it's very, as I can get it, it's kind of a modern day kind of story where you have a 20-year-old student woman and I'll give it, I think he's 33, or portraying a 33-year-old man. The whole dating thing can get very confusing. Obviously, before I met my wife, I was kind of in this guy's situation. I wasn't as like this guy is, and I don't want to give away stuff. But I understand some reasons for it. It's very much of a, the bloke has been brought up in. Hang on, I'm getting way off. So anyway, they meet. They kind of have this relationship. It leads to them having sex, which doesn't go very well. The woman decides to break it off with the man. Then the bloke kind of gives really bad messages of like he's kind of not want to leave her alone. She tries to go a bit, gets scared and doesn't know what to do, and obviously it's then what she does, and then kind of an altercation happens between the two of them, which then kind of resolves it but doesn't resolves it, and then he moves away and she is kind of left wondering, and that's where it is. Not to give, it's kind of the whole, I'm not really giving it away because it's kind of the journey that you go on is the whole point of this story. It's not kind of the ending. There's nothing after the credits after seeing this. Is based on a short story. I thought it was okay because of the story and how kind of jumbled around it is and stuff. Maybe it might appeal to people younger because they might understand it. It very much is linked on, and they have an opening quote that it is men. When it comes to women, they don't want women to kind of laugh at them, and women are scared that a man would kill them. And you kind of have these points, and I say with the age range of stuff, this is where it goes kind of on. But anyway, let's get into it. So spoiler warning up as usual. So if you haven't seen the film, please stop here. I know I've kind of detailed the whole film, but as I say, it's more the journey of what happens and when, what, and why, and stuff. But yeah, let's get on with it. So, as I said, basically this is the chance meeting of these two people. The woman, she's very much kind of jokey with the bloke. The bloke seems very kind of weird, reclusive, and doesn't really respond to it. And then he kind of asks her out, and it is kind of I don't know. There is some kind of weird attraction between the two, or there is initial some weird attraction, as I say, between the two of them, which is why I asked them. They kind of have a. Most of the romance for the first third of the film is all done by message, which is a very modern day thing now. I absolutely hate, or I hated it when I was in that phase, because it's like you spend all your time talking to someone and it's really hard to actually get a kind of a real grasp of who they are. Plus, obviously, if you talk to somebody too much, by the time you meet them, what do you really have to say? and there are elements, and I said maybe it is as a generation. Obviously, he's represented like in his 30s. So he's used to meeting people, talking to them, stuff like that. The younger girl, she is more, text friendly. That is kind of the thing to be done for them. And yeah, I say it may be at different ages because there is quite a big age gap between these two of 13 years or around about that. It very much personifies like the kind of how women can get scared and can get scared, I wouldn't say easy, of just how the whole environment of dating someone new and how weird stuff can come along. And I totally understand that, and they were trying to represent that in this film, and that makes sense. The same way with, there are elements later down the line about the bloke. But anyway, yeah, they text message for ages, and then then they kind of have a meet up. It doesn't go very well because he comes along to her work, and then she gets a bit panicky about stuff, which they do go overly. Kind of, she has kind of out of thoughts what's going to happen, like he might strangle her or something like that, and it doesn't. And he's just the way it comes across as weird, but he's maybe like a bit of an introvert at first. So then she goes away for like summer for her dad's birthday, and they kind of show a bit of her life. You don't almost all the way through, you don't get to see a lot of him, and that is kind of explained a little bit later. There's a reasoning for that. But anyway, so she comes back, and why she sends him a naughty pic, so to speak. It's not too revealing. It's just in a low-cut top. He doesn't really respond to that, and then she kind of keeps messaging him, which is the whole thing of like she obviously is still interested in with the kind of idea of this guy, and then wants to have a date. They then have a date. She agrees to a date that she isn't really into, which I think is, I know my wife did that when she's not really into scary films and horror and dinosaurs and stuff, and she came along very early on when we were dating to see one of the Jurassic Worlds, and she said she absolutely hated it all the way through. Like, I'm like, be honest with people, be honest with people. I understand, like, you don't want to see it. I'm, if somebody cares about someone or you like somebody, you won't be offended. Anybody finds channel, I will watch any and everything. I'm maybe not your stereotypical bloke that just wants action and stuff. If she'd wanted to go see a chick flick, that would have been fine with me. But just to show, how this kind of film is depicting a little bit realistic. Anyway, they go see Star Wars, and it isn't, and he gets that she isn't really enjoying it. They decide to go for a drink. She decides, that's the best way. They go to a bar. She's only 20. She can't get in because it's America. She gets a bit upset. They then manage to get into another bar, which doesn't kind of explain how he manages to move her into another bar. They have a few drinks. She gets a bit drunk. Talks to her friends, and basically her friends like, you should call it there now. You're a bit drunk. You don't want to do something stupid. But she's like, oh, it'd be really nice to like sleep with him, because even though he gave her a kiss earlier and he was really awkward about it, because obviously maybe he's not had experience, or people don't communicate and say, you're not the greatest kisser, maybe you could do this or that. Constructive criticism is never a bad thing if it's phrased in the right way. So anyway, they go back to his, one thing leads to another, they have sex, and this was a poignant point, I think, is why this film was trying to hit home of, she kind of said she was into it, and then she's kind of having an inner monologue with herself, but basically she isn't into it, but feels that she's almost led him on, or kind of been staying it and doesn't want to, and she doesn't enjoy the experience at all. And I think this is the whole point of, like, I think this movie is very much about communication, and it's very much, the bloke is very old school, she is very online, but when you meet somebody, you need to take the time and obviously set boundaries and stuff, and if you're not having a good time, you need to say it. If you want to have sex and then change your mind before you've even started, or then they should understand that if they're the person for you. And I think that it shows that women may feel pressurized into having sex with people if they've kind of think it's a good idea at the time, the kind of whole atmosphere, and you might be a bit drunk, and the mood maybe takes you, and then you decide actually maybe this isn't the best idea, but feel guilty of saying something. And if that is a point to highlight in this film, then I think women need to feel comfortable to be able to say something like that without men being repercussions. I know there are a lot of arseholes out there who probably would take offence or mind to this, but if that's how someone's going to be, then they're probably not that person for you. Unless you're into that sort of thing. Who am I to say? Just my thoughts and opinions. Anyway, so after this whole section, she breaks it off. He then gets a bit crazy. He does turn up outside her work, doesn't interact with her, and she walks home, gets a bit scared, calls the police. Police says she can't really do anything. He then messages her, calls her a whore because he is going through, obviously with most blokes, or I think any person, when you go through a relationship or you'll go try dating someone or it doesn't work out, and then you look back through the messages and like, well, that could be misinterpreted as this, and this is the whole thing. If you don't really talk to somebody, it's really hard to gauge what someone has said and what someone has done and how they're acted. So she tries to find a way to prevent, him, or know where he is, because she's getting scared now that he will do something to her. So she goes to a hardware store, so to speak, that has knives and guns and stuff, gets some pepper spray and gets a tracker, and it's like, if you put this tracker on his car. So she has a falling out with a friend, goes to his house, sneaks into his garage, and as she's sneaking into a garage to put this tracker on there, he actually has a dog, which is a dog that's turned up earlier, and then there is a bit of, she's like, oh no, you've been stalking me. He's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to put a tracker on a car? As he tries to grab what's in her hand, she kind of gets partly knocked down. She goes to pepper spray him and pepper sprays herself, and obviously then knocks herself out. He takes her inside the house to make sure she is all right, but then obviously starts to get worried, and this is where it then comes to, I think, a reality we live in with not necessarily cancel culture, but everything that's going on, that he is basically saying that, the police have obviously maybe been in contact with him because he's like, like, it didn't work out, you magically turn up my house, you've got blood bleeding out the back of your head, and you've got, bruised eyes where you pepper spray yourself. If he's like, if you leave my house now, it's going to look like I've done something I haven't, but there obviously is the indication of that. He's like, I obviously was into you, you broke it off, and then you turn up at my house, you're sending really weird mixed signals, I don't know what's going on. She is obviously scared, assumes that he is kind of going to like kill him or something like that, and kind of is having these thoughts because he won't let her leave, which is understandable in that respect, but then everything leading up to it has been a complete and utter misunderstanding, and this is where then a revelation kind of comes, that she's like, I need some water from my eyes, and he's like, you don't need water, you need saline, and she's like, oh yeah, that's right, how would you know, thinking that he's done this before, blah blah blah, and he says that, I'm a nurse, and it is at this point that she doesn't even know what he does as a job, and this is where I think this whole especially online, I don't know if he is an introvert and doesn't want to talk about himself, or she's just not asked, that, he knows what she does, she doesn't even know what his job is. No offence, that would probably be one of the first few questions that you'd want to talk about, what are you into work, what are you into hobbies and stuff like this. And he, and he's like, well, obviously allegations like this for anybody in the NHS or something, you wouldn't be able to work on certain patients if you come across as like a paedophile or attacking women or something along that lines is where it is. Anyway, she has kind of he goes to get something for her, she then tries to get out, grabs hold of her phone, calls the police. He comes in and is like, well, what are you doing? I said, like, I'm trying to help you. He kind of tries to grab the phone off her. There's an altercation, then they're kind of fighting through the house of trying to get stuff. She hits him with a lot of stuff. He gets scratched, gets hit over the head with a bottle. She tries to get out through the basement, opens the basement door, and two cats run out. He'd previously said earlier he had cats in his bedroom, he has this enclosed, but she'd never seen it, and that was one of these characteristics. She thought he was a psycho pretending, but he obviously wasn't. It's cold, they were in the basement to keep him safe. This is where not talking, not communication, misunderstanding stuff. I just say maybe of how he is as an introvert, stuff didn't help things. Anyway, they fight. They end up going down the stairs, fighting. They knock over a heater. The house then goes up in flames. He luckily has a kind of sealed box underneath the house that he climbs into, tells her to get into. She's scared, and then changes her mind later, and they get in it. At this time, her friend has come back after their fight and realised she's not there. Traced her back to this house, which is then a fight. 5 people turn up, burn it down, don't find anyone. Then they realise there is 2 people alive. They go down, open the basement, they're both there. She wakes up in the hospital with her family around her, going, oh, I hope you're well. Then literally you see her all better with her friend, riding the bike up to where this bloke's house was. It's gone. He's gone. She had a phone in the hospital. He's quit his job. He's moved away. Blah, blah. The end. Really strange ending. really strange film. I'm gonna rate this like 5 out of 10. It's an interesting film. It makes you think about stuff. I think if it's trying to raise awareness and maybe open people's eyes that, we don't communicate, this is very much of they didn't communicate well. I don't know if they were even right for each other in the first place. Say she's very kind of standoffish or very kind of jokey with him. He's very not really funny, but then ask her out. And the age range can be a bit of difficult for people. And that, 13 years is quite a big gap. Some people consider, 6 years between me and my wife, but that's not 4 years even. Don't want to get that wrong. 4 years, but I have been in relationships that have been slightly like 5 and 6 years different apart, and those obviously didn't work out for obvious reasons. But it's all about the communication stuff, and I think this is, people need to better communicate, and that probably is better done in person. So you don't, plus obviously reliving messages and stuff, you can so misconstrue them and anything else like that. Obviously the whole point, I think men need to be considered that obviously women, we do live in a world where unfortunately men can come across as very scary, women can be very intimidated, and obviously a man is seen to be able to handle himself, whereas a woman, and obviously people hang around in groups of people and it can be very very intimidating and very, even to the point of that, some people can come across as harassment and they don't mean to, and that can scar people, because we are human beings, we react to stuff in different ways, but just you don't realise how trying to be friendly can come across. Everybody interprets stuff a slightly different way. I'm not justifying anything, but I'm just saying, that is unfortunately the realistic of the world. Yeah, I think these two should A, communicate better, B, if they had talked and maybe explained themselves, they would have realised that they probably were just better as friends, or I don't even think the friends, it just doesn't work. Let's move on to the next one. Because the film does, even though they're right up to his house, the film does then end. I missed out a scene that she's at a concession stand, and then a younger bloke comes up and kind of has the same kind of talk with her, and then it asks for a number, and I'm thinking, learn your lesson. I feel there is a lot of benefit of the old style of talking to someone in person, talking on the phone. I know people don't know rock text, meeting people to talking to them, but then I think you need to understand people's boundaries and stuff, and you meet a person and get time to meet them. If it isn't working, just be honest with people, and obviously if someone is being honest with you, respect that is their decision, and that's it. People do fall in love with people very easy sometimes, and they do care about each other, or they feel like they care about each other quite early in relationships. If you haven't, forever, it could be a lot of reasons, but yeah, I think when a woman says no, same way I think it could be for a bloke. If a bloke says no, women need to understand that as well, because I know it can be both ways. Anyway, I know I've spoke massively about this film. This isn't what this is cat person. I'm a dog person, but I do like cats as well. I say it's a very interesting film. As I give it 5 out of 10. I think for the younger generation and the slightly older generation, it would be a good film to watch if it's trying to relay these ones, just for people to understand that, because it would be better in this age when everybody is on their phone to maybe, let's put these down, let's just have a conversation, and let's just not be scared of saying something, and again, take in what someone else says. Anyway, I've been Cypher Sigma Screen Time. Hope you enjoyed this really long review of Cat Person. Have you seen this movie? Do you agree or disagree? Is this something you are going to watch? Please do let me know in the comments below. Please feel free to say whatever you feel. Obviously not offensive, but I'm really interested to read your views. Otherwise, I shall see you in the next one.